If I were to ask you what you did on October 1st, 2001, I have no idea. Couldn't tell you. But if I ask you what you did on your last birthday, I'm pretty sure you can come up with, some pretty specific detail. And it's because we connect specific times and places and events with specific memories. Today was one of those days in teaching where that happened. Let me explain. Today we began interactions of animal systems is what it's called, but it's basically discussing body systems. Now, I can do this one of a couple of ways. Having my background in biology and chemistry, I can sit there and teach this in a very clinical way. I can go into anatomy and physiology, talk about the structure and function of every system, talk about every cell, tissue, organ, and organ system in a specific and detailed way. And in about 15 minutes, I would have kids drooling on their desks, ready to die. But that's how I learned it. Or I could begin with a story, a life experience story about how to maintain homeostasis and an adrenaline dump and how that affects the body and the sympathetic nervous system. And then start my way into the immune system and talk about the fact that we're wearing masks and talk about infectious diseases and vectors and antibodies and antigens and aspecific or non-specific and specific defenses and work my way through all of that. And then get into the lymphatic system and talk about lymph nodes, and then yet another story about how I found a lymph node in my chest and thought it was breast cancer and had to go get a mammogram, and I was the only man in this place, and they squeezed my breast and it. Yeah, that happened. And then I talked about the integumentary system, talking about the skin being the first line of defense and why the skin is so important and the layers and what is in each layer and melanin. And then I said, what happens when? And told them yet another story, which was more sad, more horrific, of a life experience that I had in another career where I was a massive burn victim who was young, and what I saw and what I experienced in that, and the fact that she probably didn't make it. And then I moved through the next system, talking about the circulatory system and the pathway through the heart and the pathway of blood and what blood was and arterial and atherosclerosis and the blood pressure and all of those things and how they're all interconnected. And that was just 4 systems today. We as teachers, we often forget that there are flesh and blood sitting in front of us, and they're not sponges. They're not. They're kids with some of the biggest complaints that their learning is not connected to real life. They don't know why they want or need to learn what we're shoveling at them on a daily basis. Well, today was one of those days, and I wish I had every day this way, but it's hard. But today was one of those days where kids that were live were laughing and enjoying it. The kids that had their cameras on were laughing and enjoying it. I think the dots with the letters were laughing and enjoying it. At least the chat was lighting up in my Google Meets. Because the learning was woven into life experience. Mine, but in their own heads, they could imagine this happening to them or a loved one or a friend. We've got to make days like this happen more often. I know it's the goal, but how do we do it? Every day. It's work. It's hard work. Connected to real life.